In the first scene, we can see one cell dividing into many cells. After that, we see a human ancestor drinking water from a lake in ancient times. Lucy talks about how life started billions of years ago, and wonders what we have done with it in all this time. Now, Lucy is a young American woman in Taiwan with her boyfriend Richard, outside a hotel. He wants her to take a briefcase to a man named Mr. Jang in his room. Richard offers her $500, but she refuses because she doesn't know what's inside. Then, Richard ties the briefcase to Lucy's wrist with handcuffs, leaving her with no choice. Lucy goes to the front desk and tells them Richard sent her to Jang's room. She feels nervous and gives her name to the clerk. Lucy sees Richard smiling out the window before he gets shot and killed. Then some bad guys come and make her go up to the room with them. Meanwhile, the movie shows a cheetah chasing and killing a gazelle, carrying its dead body in its mouth. Lucy gets taken to Jang's apartment where she sees dead bodies on the floor and feels so sick that she throws up. Jang comes out with bloody hands and talks to someone on the phone to translate for Lucy. She feels scared and confused about what's happening. Jang writes the number 140 on a piece of paper, which is the code to unlock the briefcase. Jang goes to another room while his men prepare themselves with guns and shields. Lucy opens the briefcase and finds 4 bags of blue powder, each weighing 1 kilogram. Jang brings in a man who seems high on drugs and makes him snort some of the blue powder. The man starts shaking for a moment, and then laughs uncontrollably until Jang shoots him in the head. Then, Jang tells Lucy to do something, but she says no until he hits her. Lucy wakes up in a hotel room and sees a bandage on her stomach. Then, Jang's men come in and give her some clothes to wear. She is brought to Jang along with 3 other men. A man from Britain, known as the Limey, comes to talk to Lucy and explains that she and the other men have a new drug called CPH4 inside their bodies. They plan to sell the drug and make lots of money by smuggling it all over the world. Later, Lucy gets taken to a room and chained up. One of the bad guys tries to touch her inappropriately and then kicks her in the stomach, where she got cut before. The kick causes a hole in the drug bag inside her body, and the powder starts going into her system. Lucy starts moving and shaking all over the room, even reaching up to the ceiling before falling back down to the floor. While Lucy is going through all of this, we see Professor Samuel Norman talking to a class about his research on the brain. He talks about what might happen if people could use more than the 10% of the brain that they normally do. He also talks about how the brain would react to different environments that could allow people to live forever or have children without limits. The professor explains that if a person doesn't like where they live, they might want to live forever and move to another place. But if they like where they are, they might want to have children. If people could use 40% of their brain, they could control things around them. One student asks what would happen if people could use 100% of their brain, and the professor admits that he doesn't know. Lucy wakes up with her eyes glowing blue. She is now calmer than before. A bad guy enters the room, and Lucy tries to lure him in by opening her legs. The bad guy puts his gun down on a table and comes closer. Lucy grabs him and throws him to the ground. She takes the gun from the table and shoots the other bad guys. Even though she gets shot in the shoulder, she removes the bullet without feeling any pain. Then she eats the food that was meant for the bad guys before leaving the place. Outside, she sees 2 taxi drivers. She shoots one of them in the leg and forces the other to take her to the hospital. While traveling to the hospital, Lucy's senses become more acute, and she can hear conversations outside the car. At the hospital, she can read signs with clarity as if they were written in English. In an operating room, Lucy sees doctors working on a man with a brain tumor. She examines the man's X-ray scans and concludes that he cannot be saved. She then kills the man and orders the doctors to remove the drug bag from her stomach. Lucy dials her mother's number and tells her that she's sensing everything around her, including the air, her blood flow, and body temperature. She can even remember very early memories, such as a moment when she was petting a cat as a baby or when she was sick as a child. Lucy expresses her love for her mother and ends the call. The doctor removes the bag of drugs from Lucy's stomach. When she informs him that it's CPH4, he explains that this is a nutrient that pregnant women produce after 6 weeks of pregnancy to feed the fetus. The doctor is amazed that Lucy has lived with it in her body for so long. Lucy goes back to the hotel and finds Jang getting a tattoo and facial. She kills his guards and interrupts the tattoo artist before sticking knives into both of Jang's hands. She uses her new powers to access Jang's mind and see where the other 3 drug mules are headed by looking at their plane tickets. After she leaves, Jang screams in pain. Lucy visits her friend Caroline's place to use her computer. In a few seconds, she reads all of Professor Norman's research and calls him to discuss it. He's amazed that Lucy has read it all, and she tells him about her experiences since using more of her brain, now at 20% capacity. Lucy can control electronics and uses this ability to appear on Norman's TV, phone, and radio. She arranges to meet him in 12 hours. Before she leaves, she prints a prescription for Caroline, advising her to change her lifestyle to improve her failing liver and kidneys. As people have heard about Lucy shooting the patient, she changes her hairstyle and color as she moves through the airport. She phones a French police officer, Captain Pierre Del Rio, to tell him about the other drug smugglers. After that, she gets on the plane and keeps studying the brain, quickly typing on her computer. Lucy is asked by the flight attendants to turn off her computer. She then asks for a glass of champagne, and does a strange thing by telling one of the attendants to wipe her nose without looking at her. The lady's nose bleeds after doing so. Lucy is then given the champagne glass and says, "To knowledge," before taking a sip. Suddenly 40% appears on her computer screen. Lucy discovers a tooth in her glass and spits up 3 more teeth. Afterward, her skin starts to break down, visible to everyone on the plane. Lucy quickly goes to the bathroom and notices that her fingers are disappearing and her face is melting. To fix it, she takes out the remaining CPH4 and snorts it, which helps her become normal again. However, she falls unconscious. Lucy regains consciousness in a hospital room. Captain Del Rio and several other officers and doctors are present in the room. Lucy quickly sits up, which startles a nurse. Lucy exits the room and is confronted by the armed men. Using her newfound powers, she causes them all to fall asleep except for Del Rio. Lucy and Del Rio work together to find Jang's men. Next, G, a henchman working for Jang, arrives with more armed men to search for the other drug mules. The men are brought into a room, where their drugs are removed and they are killed. With Lucy's brain power now at 60%, she uses her mind to move them around and stop G from escaping with the briefcase of drugs by creating an invisible wall. She takes the drugs from G and prepares to leave, but tells Del Rio to come with her. He feels like he can't be of much help, but she kisses him and asks him to come. Jang and G pursue her. Lucy and Del Rio arrive at a university to meet with Norman and his colleagues. Lucy shares all her new knowledge that comes with her increased brain power. However, Jang and his men suddenly attack and start shooting. Lucy gives the remaining CPH4 to the professors so that they can make it into a liquid that goes into her bloodstream. Her brain function goes up to 70%, and her hands start to turn into a black worm-like substance that attaches itself to the computers in the room. This gives Lucy more energy from matter, giving her an enormous amount of power. As her brain function continues to increase, she manipulates matter to the point where everything in the room seems to disappear, leaving the professors standing in a white space. Then she creates a new advanced computer before their eyes. Jang's henchman, G, uses a powerful weapon to launch Lucy far away to Times Square. Lucy then travels through time by waving her hand, going back to different periods such as the early 1900s, colonial times, and even prehistoric times. Jang aims his gun at Lucy's head, but Lucy suddenly reaches 100% power. She disappears, leaving only her clothes behind. Jang shoots at nothing, and Del Rio enters the room and kills Jang. The black goo in the room transforms into a flash drive that Norman retrieves, allowing him to continue his research. Del Rio asks where Lucy is, but he receives a message on his phone that says, "I am everywhere." The movie ends with a view from above of Jang's dead body, while Lucy's voice says that we can do great things with life.